Hey everybody, welcome to Question Barn. This week on Question Barn, it's our old pal Amanda Bauer. Hi Amanda, how's it going?
Hello everyone, it's going just fine, thanks.
She's talking to us from Australia, everybody. Hey, so Amanda, what's new with you?
Well, I'm at Siding Spring Observatory this week, which is in New South Wales in Australia. I'm observing lots and lots of galaxies for the SAMI Galaxy Survey. So that's fun.
So you get to stay up all night because that's when the stars are out.
Yeah, so for optical astronomy, you stay up all night and do all your observations while the stars are up, and then stay awake until the sun rises, and then go and sleep for a little while. And then wake up in the afternoon and set all your calibrations running, make sure your software is still working, and wait patiently for the sun to set and start the whole thing over.
Do you find it tiresome?
I do. Particularly in the winter because the nights are so long. But right now down here it's the summer, so that should be a problem, except I've been having a bit of a challenge sleeping, so feeling a little loopy, I have to admit.
Yeah. Would you rather be one of the astronomers who has to like stay up all night, or would you rather be an astronomer who has to go to the Antarctic to do an experiment?
Well, personally, I don't really have any interest in going to the Antarctic. That seems pretty cold. But I do like staying up all night. I mean, I love looking at the Milky Way across the sky, and the night sky is part of the reason why I became an astronomer. So I love being able to go outside and let my eyes dark adapt and see so many stars that I can't recognize constellations anymore. I love it.
Amazing. Well, I don't know. Well, let's see. What's new in my life? Not very much. I've taken up archery. That's really fun.
Taking up archery. Is there like a first sport, or is there an enemy that you're trying to take out?
Well, first one, then the other. I mean, you gain enemies by participating in sports, right? That's the point.
Only if you're good, I guess.
or catastrophically bad, I guess. Yeah, so it's really funny because it's one of these things where you kind of learn it by doing it at the local club. And the local club is full of people who want to give you advice. And their advice is, sometimes they tell you things like, no, hold it like this. And then the next day someone else will be like, oh, you're holding it wrong, do it like this. And yeah, it's all over the place. But it's fun, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that happens with everything in life, isn't it? I mean, you try to get as many people's experience and opinions as you can, and then you figure out what your own best method is.
Isn't it always the way? And the whole time you're just screaming in your head that you just want to be left alone to try whatever you've just been told out before you can get another piece of advice to try to integrate into the rest of your system.
While you're holding a bow and arrow.
Yeah,
Good.
that's right. No, but yeah, bows and arrows are really fun. There's something very therapeutic about pulling back a bow and trying to aim it and then letting it go.
Well, there's something about where you harness so much energy and you just get that maximum power out of it, and then you send this arrow off so fast. It's kind of the same thing with swinging a bat in baseball when you hit the ball at just the right spot. I love that.
Sure. Do you do archery?
I did when I was younger. We had to do it at school, but I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah, no, that's fun. Yeah, I like it. I find I get I enjoy it the same way I enjoy doing like mathematics. You just get to concentrate really hard. But in this, you concentrate and then you let go of the arrow and then it does whatever it wants. In math or whatever, you have to, concentrate and you get your conclusion and then you have to spell check your stuff. And then submit it, and you're like, what if it's wrong? With an arrow, you're just like, well, I ended up slamming into the back wall. Who cares?
Oh, I would say there's a good analogy for writing code in there. You set it up, and you hit go, and you just let your code run for however long it needs to run. And at the end, sometimes you hit the bullseye, and sometimes you're like, what happened?
Exactly what writing code is like. All right, so let's get to this week's question. It's by a guy named Dave. So Dave said, first of all, I really enjoy the podcast, and while I've been wanting to send in this question, and I think it would be perfect for the new segment. My question is, what direction would one have to look to see the Big Bang? Now, I understand that we are in an ever-expanding universe, and technically the Big Bang is in all directions, but I guess I'm having a hard time mentally grasping the concept. I've heard the balloon analogy, and I can't quite understand that if an expanding in all... if I was expanding on an inflating balloon, I would still be able to look at the center of the balloon, right? Conversely, would it be possible to look away from the Big Bang into the space that it's expanding out into? I hope this already hasn't been covered, etc. He says, thanks for an awesome podcast. Okay, Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, these are very challenging questions, I think, for our understanding of the universe, because they're not terribly intuitive. But we can do a little bit to try to make sense of them. So if you think of, he mentioned the expanding balloon, inflating balloon analogy, so we'll talk about that a bit. The Big Bang was a state when the universe was very dense and very hot, and then it started to cool down and stretch. I don't really like to think of the universe as expanding, but more stretching. So if you are a one-dimensional creature and you live on a dot, that is your entire universe. Your whole universe is that dot. You have no knowledge of forward or backward or left or right or up or down. It's just that dot. If you bump into another dimension, so let's say a line, so now you've got this, I guess this is the one-dimensional, the dot's the zero-dimensional. So the line's a one-dimensional universe. You can go forward or backward, and that's what you know. You don't really know about left or right or up or down. If you go to the two-dimensional universe, this is the balloon. So you're on the surface of the balloon. Let's say you're the smashed, flat little worm on the balloon, in the surface of the balloon. All you know is that you can go forward and backwards and left and right, but you don't know that there's the up or the down. So the answer is no, you cannot look into the center because it doesn't exist in your reality. Does that make sense? Are you still there?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I think that... So there's actually a problem with the old balloon analogy. It's a wonderful analogy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of deceptive for a variety of reasons. The big problem with it is we're talking about analogs. It's just like you said, you're on this surface, there's up, down, left, right, but towards the center of the balloon, away from the middle of the balloon, those are directions that we don't have access to. And so the person on the balloon, as the balloon inflates, says, everything's getting farther apart.
Yeah.
Now, they think that they're at the center of the explosion because they see everything moving away from them, but that's not what the case is. Really, what's happening is there's more area in the balloon. That area in the balloon is being distributed throughout the surface of the balloon, so it's not like there's pockets of new area here and there. Anyway, the problem with it is that it's expanding in 3 dimensions. It's a 2-dimensional surface expanding in 3 dimensions. And the Big Bang is, one could put it, like a 3-dimensional surface expanding into 4 spatial dimensions.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and that... Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons people find, relativists, people in my shoes, really like the explanation is that one of the possible curvatures, spatial curvatures of the universe could be hyperbolically curved, spatially flat, or spatially closed. And the closed universe has the same geometry as a 3-dimensional sphere expanding into 4 dimensions. So literally it's a 1 dimension up equivalent to this balloon. So it is to the balloon what the balloon is to a rubber band.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's so relativists hear this explanation when they're in first year in grad school and they go, "Oh, that's perfect. I'm just going to use this expanding balloon analogy because it is great." Formally in relativity, our universe isn't expanding into anything. There isn't some larger dimension that we don't have access to. We're not stuck to the surface of some sheet that's expanding.
Right. We're not inside of some container into which we're expanding.
Yeah.
It's just that the whole universe itself is stretching.
Yeah, which is why stretching. I've started, when I try to explain this, I've started to try focusing my language on saying things like the notion, the definition of distance itself is dynamic in relativity. So the distance between us and a faraway galaxy is increasing without the galaxies. I mean, they're getting further apart, but they're not moving apart from one another. They're both sitting still. But the notion of distance between us and them is increasing because it's dynamic, because of Einstein's theory. It's a little bit less visual, it's a little bit less elegant, but you don't end up with the old problem of what are we expanding into, like the balloon expanding in 3 dimensions.
Yeah, so if you think of the expansion rate of the universe as not being a speed, but more like being a time scale. So if you think of the time it takes the universe to double in size, for instance, or to increase by 10% or something. Mm-hmm. So you can say, if we look, because the challenge is that the speed of a galaxy, or the way it's moving away, or the rate that it looks like it's moving away, is dependent on its distance to us. Mm-hmm. So if you look at any particular galaxy, and you say, okay, in roughly 10 billion years, this particular galaxy will be twice as far away. But then in 20 billion years, which is twice the time, that galaxy will be 4 times as far away. And in 30 billion years, that galaxy will be 8 times far away. So it's accelerating away from us exponentially, but it's just because the rate of expansion of the universe is a constant. Did that make any sense?
Yes. Anyway, okay, do you think we've finished answering this question? Essentially, the thing about the Big Bang is that it happened everywhere in the universe at the same time. It's a specific type of event that happens everywhere at a certain time instead of at one place. And so what happened is, everywhere in the universe, there was a time when the universe was much denser, and the volume of the universe, or even if you could, if you felt like getting crazy, you could define something like the volume density. The volume density of the universe is increasing. The universe is expanding. It's stretching, like Amanda said. So as it stretches, it cools, and the thing we see, the cosmic microwave background, it's all of the photons that were once around when the universe was really hot. They're still around, wandering through space, lonely like puppies, whose owners have died. They're going to the train station. So they're just still floating through space, and we see them. And they come from all directions because once upon a time, at all the places in the universe, there were these photons. And so we'll see them now. We'll always see them. They're slowly getting redder as the universe expands. They lose some energy. But it's not that the Big Bang was an explosion that happened at one place that blew outwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well that was fun. Yeah, that's probably it for this week's Question Barn. Fun work. Amanda, you wanna pitch anything? Tell them about your Twitter.
Yeah, so you can find me online at AstroPixie. I do some Twitter stuff, a bit of blogging. I've been working on a video series for the Australian Astronomical Observatory, so you can find that advertised through my Twitter. Or when I go observing, you can read all about the adventures of a night using a big, huge telescope. That's pretty fun.
Do you still put on those dirty space pictures?
Yeah, actually, somebody sent me one yesterday. Last night was a very fun time. And occasionally there are research results, kind of graphs, that are very suggestive in their nature. They look like certain human body parts. And generally. And people like to email me these so I can add that to my collection of space dudes, and there was a rather hilarious model that I received yesterday that looked quite phallic, if I'm honest. That's the easiest body part to imitate, it
Sure.
seems. When you're talking about jets or things shooting off into a medium, they look like male anatomy.
Are there any galaxies that look like butts? Probably, right? If
There
you
must
looked,
be,
if you
but
searched hard enough.
nobody has spotted one and said, "Oh yeah, that's a bum." I guess that's not the first thing you think of when you look at this thing.
Maybe not the first thing you think of.
Well, not the first thing that many people have thought of. I've seen lots of phallic images. I've seen lots of feminine parts. I've seen lots of boobs.
Wow.
But they're a bit harder. It's harder when you need to have that double lobe symmetry. Whereas if you've got some kind of long extended thing, that's a bit easier to do.
Yeah, but two like elliptical galaxies in the process of merging would be butt-shaped.
Kind of, but they get all distorted and stretched, and so they don't keep that symmetry very long.
Yeah, it's true. As age takes us all. Yeah, no, most people think to look to the sky to see a moon. Okay, that's it for this week's episode of Question Barn, everybody. See you later. That was lots of fun. Yeah, email your questions to TIEFighter, TIPHYTER at titaniumphysics.com, and we'll answer them. Okie dokie.
Bye-bye, y'all.